Welcome to the Double Shot with your favourite cousins, James and Alex Fitzgerald. Yes.
I'm back.
Yes, you teased us last week, said you weren't going to be back, got through the wedding and decided to surprise us, come in for just one day only before you head off to the honeymoon. First of all, congratulations. How's it feel being married? What's it like the 24, 48 hours after such a big day?
Oh, it feels completely different to no, it doesn't. It doesn't feel different at all. But nobody mentions two things. One, the come down you have after your wedding is like nothing you've ever experienced before because you're running around like crazy 3 or 4 days early. You know, you didn't even word me up, probably because you weren't the one running around. It was probably Han for your wedding.
True.
Yeah. And number two is, like when you want to marry someone, right, it's all about getting married, like having a family. Well, no one says to you, like, remember, there's legal paperwork involved here. That's confronting. I like got the little lowdown from our celebrant. Yeah. And no one says, like, remember, like when you want to marry someone, like you're like, it has to be recognised in law. Like,
don't even get due diligence, really.
It's just 7 years is not enough time for DD. No, but there's no like preparation for being confronted with signing legal paperwork.
You went, so you've got, by the way, one hell of a wedding. Some of the best food I've ever had at a wedding.
I didn't see the food, Kaz. I was so
unreal
busy.
Food.
I was so busy talking to everyone. But that's key at a Jewish wedding. That's key.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there was meat. I didn't have anything with meat in it. So really, really great food without meat. And Jewish weddings, gee whiz. I want to get myself invited to a few more Jewish weddings. They are a hoot.
I mean, for those of you who've never been to a Jewish wedding before, what James is specifically talking about, I think, is
the blood on people's shirts.
No, he's not even kidding. The out of control dancing, particularly with the men. So the men and women are separated, not at our wedding for religious purposes, but because the men are extraordinarily rough with each other and the women less so. We got heels on, you know, we don't want to get trampled by the 100-kilo men. But the guys, it's a full-blown mosh pit. It's akin to a death metal mosh pit, isn't it, Kaz?
I woke up with bruises on my ribs.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, just like little bruises, little elbows that have got me in and amongst the carnage. And there were some big guys. Dean plays basketball.
Yes.
You know, some of his mates who are basketball players, big dudes. And you were taking life into your own hands, joining that little ruckus in the middle.
I saw this video like of my dad in the middle of it with his little like Jewish kippah, which is your like little skull cap, little hats they wear.
Yeah.
And I see my dad like this little blonde head in the middle of the mosh, like just getting absolutely collected. Oh, it was so funny. Just brought into the mix, and I thought, that man, he may not come out of there alive.
It wasn't Robinson Crusoe, let me tell you. There was a few in that boat. Your social media very busy over the past 24, 48 hours. A lot of people tagging you in photos. Must have been going off.
Popping off. In fact, I haven't even got through it all, and I probably won't for another few days. I might. That'll be my downtime at the airport, I think, just like going through maybe some replies, looking at all the pictures. But wow, highly recommend getting married in your life. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Highly recommend it. Listeners, get married. It's fun. It's also very expensive.
I bet. Speaking of social media, there was a massive little campaign run last week by The Australian talking about the biggest influencers in Australia, how they built businesses off their social media platforms. And it was all actually triggered by a study that was done in the past few months, surveying kids under the age of 18, found that 50% of kids under the age of 18 would like to pursue a career as an influencer. 50%. So they were saying this is how you do it. And turns out if you have 3,000 to 10,000 followers on Instagram, which I would think is a fair few people, you can get somewhere between $90 and $180 per post.
Oh,
that was actually pretty decent coin.
What?
Do a post a day, you've got nearly $1,000.
I mean, I sit in that category and I'm really not that fantastic.
Hey, do you? You're in that category.
$180 per post. I mean,
You've got more than 3,000 followers.
yeah, I do. But can
Wow.
I just say, I think I post like once every 4 months. So beef it up.
Jeez,
Rate per post, $180 I could be making.
well,
Underutilized database, that one.
and it really goes up from there. So if you've got more than 15,000 followers, you can start to earn double that rate, about $300, and
Wow.
more than 100,000 followers, $700 per post plus. So potentially even more. However, what I did find interesting is TikTok seemingly paying more. So a lot of the people that were on the list have got much bigger followings in TikTok than they do in Instagram.
Yep.
Similar rate for the smaller follower amounts, but 100,000 followers, you can earn $600 to $1,000. So a little bit more than what Instagram is willing to pay, apparently.
I mean, you know what I'm wondering though, if this is a rate per post that you're getting from the actual platform, or if it's a rate per post that you're getting paid from like an external party or someone getting you to promote their product.
I don't know, but where the conclusion arrived at is apparently the Australian believed that if you have 50,000 followers thereabout, you could earn about $200,000 per annum. That is what a typical person with 50,000 followers is earning, $200,000 per annum. Can you believe it?
Hang on a hot tick here. Okay, $200,000 divided by, I'm going to just say like the average here is like $500.
Yeah.
That's 400 posts.
But what if
That's more than one a day.
But you might be on more than one platform, so you might be double dipping. Your TikTok and Instagram posts might get you the same amount.
Stop it. That's true. $200,000. That is a bloody good innings. And remember, you know, if you are one of these people, you've got to pay tax on that. It's not fun. It's not funny money. It is funny money actually, but you got to pay tax on that. And then there's
a lot of them were gamers. That was one of the most popular, is people that do TikToks to do with gaming, which I thought was really interesting.
There you go. I just go to TikTok for the comedy and I learn a few different bits and bobs there.
Question before we move on, would you want to do it? And I know you've actually got some friends in the US that I think have a career in this. Is it a career that you think is one worth doing? Because I personally don't think I could handle all of the, the blowback that comes on social media. I don't like the blowback.
Yeah.
That would be a deterrent for me personally.
You're essentially like a celebrity, right? And so one of my best mates over there is this guy called Cody Co. He got famous on Vine and then I guess traversed into YouTube because I remember saying to me once that's where the money's at. But he spends a lot of time editing his videos, like looking for content, looking for people to joint venture with, collab with. It's definitely not as easy as you think. And so this is interesting. When you say 50% of kids under 18 want to pursue a career in this, I think, well, maybe they're not old enough to understand how much work actually goes into it. You're essentially a celebrity / an entertainer. So if you like to entertain and I guess you're committed to it, I mean, like you could give it a crack, right?
Would you do it?
No.
Nah,
I'm good.
Me neither. But we're clearly in the minority because 50% of, well, maybe people under 18 are a bit different. Yeah, true.
Oh, God, I'm 30 and
P.S. Happy birthday for Sunday, same day as the wedding.
I know, so weird. I forgot about my birthday completely. So in the zone of my wedding, completely forgot about my birthday. So I was getting barraged with messages on Sunday and I was like, how do all these people know about no, they're texting me because it's my birthday. It's not because it's my wedding.
There you go.
I know. So I'm a little bit out of the loop on current news and whatnot for the last 4 days. I've heard there might have been another collapse.
Correct.
Somewhere.
Yes, unfortunately we lost another builder during the week. Oracle is a builder, fairly decent sized builder, but not huge.
I think they're based in Vic, no? Or out of Vic?
Queensland, in fact. Queensland is where they do the majority of their work, apparently. And they did collapse to $22.4 million up to $90 million. That seems to be the reason for it. They had, in 2019-20, they did about $22 million worth of builds. That jumped the next year to $90 million. So much growth in a short period of time, more than tripled the amount of work that they were doing. So, look, I think the cautionary tale is be careful the builder that you pick. If they grow too fast, this kind of environment isn't friendly where you've got rising costs. So be careful. I want to back over Apple Pay because I think you use it. Do you use Apple Pay?
Yeah, absolutely. If I don't have to take out my wallet and I can just take my phone out, that's a good day. The less
Really?
I have to carry, the better. Yeah, hate handbags, hate them.
It came up because I was on my way to your wedding and I said to Han, should I bring my wallet? Do you think I'll need it? And she said, well, if you had Apple Pay, you wouldn't need to.
Oh, that sounds like she wasn't very happy with you.
Righto. No, she doesn't like the fact that I use cash. But it turns out I am significantly in the minority. 75% of people use Apple Pay today in Australia.
That's correct.
And that number has grown from only 50% before the pandemic.
So I reckon it's directly related to the pandy for sure.
The pandy.
But what I found really interesting was in 2016, it was 10% of people, 20% in 2017.
Yeah.
It's like seriously come a long way. And now what I find also interesting is I've got recently joined Macquarie like 2 years ago, and I'd already had my regular NAB accounts with Apple Pay, but I went into my Macquarie app, and Macquarie now like links you to Apple Pay, so you can activate your account through the actual banking app. So I reckon banks sort of caught on to that a couple of years ago. And of course, if it makes it easier for you to spend the money on the card that you've got with them so that you're on that treadmill, then why not? So I reckon that's also related to the banks caught on, cuz. And the word is that now some of them are trying to create their own pay system.
Well, apparently 80% of all digital transactions occur on an Apple iPhone or an Apple Watch. And we talked last week about the fact Warren Buffett is one of the biggest shareholders in Apple.
Yes.
I assumed it must have been because of their reach with their iPhones, but I do wonder if maybe he's seeing their role in the digital currency space as the reason for such a big investment.
You're a smart man. So's Warren, by the way.
Warren's much smarter than me.
But you've probably actually nailed that. And look, there might be a video of him somewhere saying something about the digital currency and that's why he's going hard with Apple. But that actually, I'm actually quite blown away. I might be a little bit tired, but I am blown away. I'll normally be a lot more expressive, but just take it from my words. I'm blown away. All right, Cuzzy, do the maths on this one. All right, we got Woolies. They've posted their end of financial year numbers, okay? End of 2021, they paid out a final dividend of 55 cents, right? End of 2022, they paid out a final dividend of 53 cents.
Yes, well.
2 cents less. However, do this maths. The company posted a 282% increase in their net profit to $7.93 billion.
When I first read this, I thought...
So, excuse me?
Well, when I first read this, I thought that makes sense. Tomatoes, $12.90 a kilo. Ridiculous. Bloody Oriental cucumber or whatever they're called, $3.90, up from $2. So I thought, well, they're just gouging their prices.
Well, yeah, costs as well. Give them a bit of trust.
Well, no. Yeah, you're right. The big increase in profit, the 282% increase,
huge,
has all come from the sale of their pubs business, Endeavour.
So the maths doesn't actually stack in a way. It is still a little bit smelly.
Well, they're not as profitable, but it probably still doesn't quite make sense why they haven't paid a dividend to the shareholders. I think you'd have a case to say, hey, we just sold a whole business that increased our profit by a significant amount, nearly tripled, and you're not paying us any more dividend.
I know, $7.93 billion profit this year and a $2.07 billion last year, but like a 2 cent difference. What on earth? What on earth?
And they did increase their revenues still by 10%, but they did talk about the fact that their actual profit, if you took out the Endeavour sale, was down nearly 5%. So clearly there is truth to this whole case that they've got rising costs. Woolworths still going pretty well though, considering. The same cannot be said for the flying kangaroo, Qantas.
Oh, no, just terrible. Final dividend 2021, nil. Final dividend 2022, nil. Both years recording a serious loss in net profit.
Yeah, $1.7 billion loss last year. That was better this year, but still nearly $900 million, and it takes their total losses since the pandemic to $7 billion. And the CEO of Qantas, Alan Joyce, he's one of the longest serving. In fact, he might be the longest serving CEO of an ASX 100 company,
Really?
the top biggest 100 companies in Australia.
He is quite liked.
He's been there since, I think it's 07. So he's seen off the GFC. He's seen off some
Kevin
of the
07.
challenges. The Kevin 07. I don't think that was his challenge.
Bye.
He's seen the fuel crisis. He's really done the hard yards. He's now seeing off the pandemic,
Wow.
albeit with a bit of pain in the process. Talked about the fact that they have got terrible cancellation rates. They're not running on time. Their fuel costs are absolutely killing them. And to make matters worse, they've got one of the highest rates they've ever had in staff absenteeism because of
Sick
sickness.
leave. That's
Correct.
right.
And with jobs now really hard to fill, and we're going to talk about that in the next one, he just said there is no end in sight because we don't have backup staff waiting.
That's right.
So he didn't paint the rosiest picture for Qantas going forward.
No.
Again, don't listen to us on investing in shares, but it's hard to mount a case for Qantas at the moment.
If they're cheap, there might be a good comeback. He did say that they're currently operating at 95% capacity and they'll continue to do that till the first half of next year, 2023. And then hopefully second end of next year, 2023, they'll operate at about 105% of their capacity. So I would say they've got their fingers crossed for good employment opportunities on that note as well. It makes me wonder, are they going overseas to poach people to Australia like other countries are coming to Australia to poach Australians overseas with the big bucks, the big doll hairs?
Well, it's been everywhere. The fact that there is a bunch of overseas companies targeting Australians and we're losing talent.
They are.
Gilbert and Tobin, one of the biggest law firms in Australia, they've lost 20 lawyers, they say, to overseas competitors just since the start of this year. So a significant chunk of their workforce. And they just said it is impossible for us to compete when we make it so hard for people to get into the country. It's a long wait process. You've got to pay fees, in the thousands of dollars. And to make matters worse, you've got obviously the challenges finding someone.
Yeah.
So it's big. It's everywhere at the moment. There's a big summit going on where all the big wigs around town are going to try and talk about getting people into the country because it coincides with Emirates. And I was chatting to your brother and your stepdad, who is a pilot or was a pilot, Kane's a pilot, talking about the fact that Emirates as well during the week were announced to be doing a 4-day seminar in each of the main capital cities in
4
Australia.
days.
They've invited all of the cabin crews and the pilots and everyone to go to Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and I think it was Perth. And they're going to be running basically a seminar to talk about how they can bring these people on. They've got sign-on bonuses. They relocate you. They pay your visa costs. It's incredible the competition that's out there for Australian talent at the moment, which is making it much harder, I'm sure.
And also too, our dollar is healthy, but it's relatively low. So as soon as you go to the US, you're getting paid in USD, you are making some serious money. I have to say that Emirates must have to work particularly hard because, money's the main thing that's going to lead you to the middle of the desert. So, they're probably going a little bit harder than some of those other ones, but it's true. And just as another number there, sorry if you said this, but I don't think you did, Deloitte said they had 50 local accountants gone offshore, gone somewhere to live. You think, well, some people have been locked up for a few years and they've just gone, I haven't traveled, I haven't done a lot, I'm ready to experience new things in life and maybe get a lovely paycheck alongside that. So
a lot of people are probably wondering, why is it getting so much noise, migration, and they're holding a whole bloody summit for it? The answer is, since 1995, the Australian Bureau of Statistics have collected data on how many job vacancies there are in Australia.
Yes.
And there's always been more job vacancies than there is unemployed people. And it's typically actually run at nearly, 50 to 100% more vacancies than there are unemployed. For the first time since 1995, there are less job vacancies than there are unemployed people. Sorry, the other way around. Less unemployed people than there are job vacancies.
Essentially, like what, 500,000 job vacancies or 500,000 people looking to employ?
500,000 job vacancies and somewhere near 400,000 unemployed. So literally, there's just not enough people.
And you know, rightly or wrongly, you'd assume that 400,000 unemployed, they maybe don't really want to work.
Oh, there'd be a chunk of them. I reckon I saw a few of them floating around Flinders Street Station yesterday.
Oh, dear. I've dropped a few F-bombs, but holy crap, we've gone down the non-PC route there, Kelsey. But I have to say, like, it is a safe assumption, and then, you know, there's those other ones that might be going, I am tempted to go back to work and get paid a fair bit more. You know,
look,
maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do it.
There's a majority that do want a job, but you're never going to be able to employ everyone.
Mate,
that's just not how it works.
I had to bring in my wedding desserts left over from Sunday, just, you know, keep these guys happy here. The cannolis, you know, make sure they don't leave us, go work with someone else. That's the draw card. We're just putting the cannolis on the line here.
Hey, I did forget at the outset to let the listeners know that we are recording in person here today. I'm in the Melbourne office in your studio.
Thank you. And
good setup too.
Well, I mean, look, I'm certainly not a sound savant, so if we do stuff up this, and I'm very loud, if I get caught in your microphone and you get caught in mine, sorry guys, it is what it is. Sorry. JB is a wizard, but you know, he can't perform all magic.
And from one crisis to another.
Wow, very positive.
That could be the crisis of we just talked about jobs, or it could be the crisis with our audio.
My blue shirt.
It
could be the crisis of my blue shirt that makes me look like the blue wiggle.
What do you got for us here? Because I guess it's all been headlined by some fairly extravagant comments coming out of the Greens, and I'm in a green seat, so Max, my guy.
Max, my guy.
Max, my guy. He's my local member. He has kickstarted it though, talking about a rent freeze and the fact that one of the biggest challenges at the moment is obviously the affordability of rents in Australia. So he's been talking about following a Canadian model, which is to impose rent freezes. So the crux of that being is if you are in a rental, you're capped at the amount that your rent can increase each year. The moment you leave that rental, you're back into the market. So as your tenant leaves, you reset it to whatever the market price is.
Yes.
But if you've got a tenant in there, you can only increase the rent by fixed amounts each year.
I think they do that in New York, rent control, something like that. And assume
I think so. I think they do it in a lot of big cities. They're certainly doing it in Toronto, one of the biggest cities in Canada there. But yeah, so it's being talked about.
No doubt.
It's
Look,
everywhere.
We absolutely have a renting crisis. You can't deny that, right? I'm not 100% sure how a rental freeze is going to help. I mean, it's not the rent per se, it's the amount of properties available. So freezing rent, not going to help with properties being available.
That's a good point because he talks about it as being a homelessness issue as well. And homelessness certainly isn't going to be necessarily fixed by
Absolutely not.
Because you're going to, if you think about it and to give it context, there's so many rentals, there's so many people applying. The people with the better incomes and the jobs and all that sort of thing are going to get the preference and the priority. The single income earners, talk a lot of talk about, for example, single mothers. They're probably going to bear the brunt of the challenges.
Absolutely. Oh, and I think too, like I just want to mention that, that the homelessness and social housing is a crisis unto itself, and so is our private rental market. But you can't necessarily bundle those into the same solution, right? That's my take on things. But anyway, we talk about vacancies as a percentage. Most of them are sub 1% now. But I guess putting that to some more numbers and context of how long rentals are even on the market. So some new data from PropTrack, I imagine Property Tracker, bit of data there. They've brought out that the rental properties advertised on realestate.com.au are renting in an average of 19 days. which is a historic low.
Less than 3 weeks.
That's right, less than 3 weeks. An historic low from advertising to lease. And I guess what we don't see there is what's the occupancy from when one leaves to the next? You know, you probably in Melbourne you need 21 to 28 days notice. So they're probably putting it up whilst the other guys are still moving out, and then leasing it in the time. So pretty amazing. 2 of the nation's capitals also recorded their shortest timeframes for available listings. Brisbane, 15 days. Sydney, 21 days to lease. Pretty amazing. Then we go over to Adelaide. They're about average of 16 days. Perth, 17. Darwin, 18. Hobart, 19. And Melbourne, the longest, 22 days. So the longest by 1 day over Sydney. All in all, relatively very, very short times. So really at a national level, seriously low, a third lower than pre-pandy
Very
levels.
tough going. And Charterket Cromer, they're another research firm. There's so many research firms out there. They produced a report around the same time as the Prop Track one, which talked about apartment commencements. So that is new buildings being built.
I think they'll be key. They'll be key for this because apartments are relatively affordable compared to houses.
Well, Brisbane, Melbourne and Sydney are all at 10-year lows. And and the Sydney apartments, for example, 7,700 started in the last year. That's down from, that peaked at 31,000.
Oh, 2017 peak though. Like that was the peak.
Still well down from 14,500 in 2013. So significantly low. Melbourne, 5,900. That's down from 24,500 in 2015. And Brisbane sitting at about 1,900, which seems crazy low. And that is down from 13,500 in 2016 when it peaked. So the issue probably being that you've got Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne all having these 10-year lows at the same time.
Yeah, that's
Whereas
right.
normally there's one market that might be introducing a lot of supply, which may keep the rents affordable
And think
in
about
some areas.
That's absolutely in some areas, but think about, you know, the biggest challenge for the big apartment developers is construction costs, without a shadow of a doubt, because they're building, you know, next level. I mean, construction costs, big problem for everyone, from the first home buyer up until the big developer that needs to deliver more affordable rentals, but of course places for peeps to live. All right, this one's getting way too long in the tooth, and I'm just getting tighter.
The honeymoon's in sight.
The honeymoon's in sight. The mic needs to be dropped at some point. But you love Warren Buffett. We talked about him last week. He's doubled down on some of his shares in companies that he's already a shareholder in, but he's also gone on a spending spree. And our man, Sammy the Stats Man, has gone out and he's actually found specifically for you. So you must have shouted in the last few flat whites.
I did have to.
Yeah,
yes.
You did. Well, you know, you're a smart man.
And he earned them.
He has earned them. He's gone and found exactly where he put his money, but exactly how many shares he purchased and at what share price.
Correct. So for those who didn't hear last week's episode, we talked about the fact Warren Buffett's spent about $53 billion in US dollars in buying shares this year. Huge amount. That is despite the S&P 500, so the stock index, the 500 biggest companies in America's stock exchange, down 14% for the year.
Amazing.
Of the $52.6 billion, where's he spent it though? That was the question. He's spent the most amount of money on Chevron, which must be an oil company, I'm pretty sure. He spent $20.1 billion. So clearly making the most of this Russian crisis, seeing that American oil might be in a little bit more demand. Occidental Petroleum was the next one there, $14 billion. So $34 billion of his $52.6 spent on oil companies. Hewlett-Packard, HP, $3.5 billion. Not sure why. I have to admit. Paramount Global, $2 billion. So clearly a bit more of a Paramount Plus fan than Netflix and Disney potentially.
Well, you know, I've got no idea what's on there, but I trust Warren.
And we alluded to it earlier, $1.3 billion he's bought in shares in Apple since the start of the year. Already was the biggest shareholder in Apple. Now definitely the biggest shareholder, and we think that might have something to do with
digital
Apple
currency.
Pay.
That's right.
So some big bets from our man Warren. He's the oracle for a reason, and he always has that famous saying, be greedy when others are fearful. Clearly putting his money where his mouth is on that one.
And also don't get caught standing there naked when the tide goes out, cuzzy.
Correct. Now I'm going to have to run. I've got to get to the airport where I'm leaving Melbourne today. I'm going on a Rex flight.
Oh, what?
First time ever that I will be flying Rex.
And during work hours.
And during work hours.
I mean, the numbers are the numbers, and I'm really nervous because if this is late, you are not going to wait more than 5 seconds before you text me and saying it's running late. I'm on a Rex flight, it's running late.
Oh, you wait. If it gets cancelled, you're going to be in a whole lot of strife.
Well, if the Rex flight gets cancelled, I would assume 5 of the Qantas flights have also been cancelled today. It's probably Qantas' fault, actually.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Mazel tov. Enjoy the honeymoon. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Probably like 1 now.
1 week. How good?
Depends how good Fiji is.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of The Double Shot with your favourite cousins, Alex and James Fitzgerald. If you've got a burning question or something we absolutely need to talk about on the pod, please write to us. Both of our emails are in the show notes. For little real estate tidbits and a little bit of banter, okay, a lot of banter, you can follow us on the gram. Our handle is thedoubleshot.podcast. That, my friends, is thedoubleshot.podcast. Until next time, think of us when you sit back and sip your next double shot.